Hi everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'll be talking about my productivity setup on the iPhone and how I automate things on my phone. So if you're interested in figuring out how to automate your iPhone, please watch this video till the end. Let's start with the productivity setup. I use an iPhone, so if you're an Android user, it's probably not going to be very useful for you, but perhaps you can still take some tips in how to organize the screens. Productivity for me is more about the attention and focus control rather than being effective and doing as many things as possible. I would say if you have your attention and focus in the right place, you will most likely get more things done. And phones, as we all know, is the big source of distractions. So what I try to do is to make my phone be less of a distraction. Like that, the first thing that I did, I turned off the notifications. So my social media apps have absolutely no notifications on my lock screen. They don't have these, they don't have the red dots with the amount of messages next to the icon. So the only way for me to check my notifications on social media is to actually go into the app and look at it. Because I don't have the notifications on my lock screen and I don't have these little badges, I have much less triggers to open those apps, and as a consequence, I use them less. When it comes to messengers, I do still have them on because my family or friends can text me. I see the notifications on my lock screen, but they are silent. Another type of notifications that I have on is the notifications about some events in my calendar. I find them important enough to be notified about them, so they also appear on my lock screen and I hear a buzz when they are there. Another thing that I do is I limit my screen time. This is how it's done. You go to Settings, go to Screen Time and App Limits. Here you can select the apps that you would like to restrict your time on. I chose 1 hour every day for these 2 apps, and that hour means not per app, but for all the apps selected. Let's move on to stuff that I have on my phone. Okay, so I actually have only 2 screens, and as you see, here there are 2 dots. The first page has the apps and data that I want to use more often, so it's more available to me. In the iOS, you could use widgets from some time ago. The 2 widgets that I use are my screen time. Here you can see that I spent some time, and actually filming the video on my phone also counts as screen time. And the second widget is the calendar, and this size of the widget allows me to see 3 upcoming events. The rest of the screen are either individual apps or folders. Individual apps are the apps that I would like to access more frequently and easily. So here you can see Google Maps and Photos. Then I have folders for German, so these are all the apps that I use for the language learning. Then it's financial apps that I use more frequently because I have some other ones that are shown on the second page. Then I have the productivity folder. It has the apps such as notes or reminders that I use every now and then. And next there is Notion, one of my favorite apps. I organize all my life in Notion. I try to create a second brain out of it, and I also used it in automation on my phone, which I get to a little bit later. Then there is MeFit, which is the app that is connected to my fitness watch, where I track my physical activity, my sleep, and my weight. The next one is Spotify for the music and podcasts. And the next row is actually the shortcuts that I created for myself. So this is the automation part that I get to in more detail a little bit later. Right, and of course in that panel down below, I have the actual phone app, Chrome browser, email client, and Bookmate is the app that I use to read books. On the second screen, as you can see, most of the things are organized in folders, except for the Settings app, which I would like to access a little bit faster. And the rest just has the category that where the apps belong to. Honestly, I don't use any of these apps that much. I put the social media and YouTube on the second screen in the folder as well, so it takes me a bit more clicks to get there so that it doesn't distract me as much. Obviously, it doesn't stop me from using these apps, but I think making them a little bit less accessible make me use them a little bit less. If I swipe to the right from my home screen, I could see a screen with a bunch of widgets, which I also find handy. This is the weather widget, again, my screen time, the level of battery for my phone, and some other things that I find useful to look at once in a while. In order to add a widget, you need to tap on the phone and hold it. until you see the icons appear, and then you could use the plus icon and browse through the widgets that are available for you right now. All right, let's move on to the automation part. Some time ago, Apple introduced the Shortcuts app on the iPhone, and I saw it and I'm like, I'm not sure, I don't know what that is, so I totally ignored it. Until recently, when I watched a video about shortcuts on the iPhone, and I thought like, that's actually pretty cool when it comes to productivity, because certain things are so tedious the computer should do that, not me. And I very quickly thought about a bunch of things that might be cool to automate. So as you can see here in the last row, these blue icons are actually the shortcuts that I am using now more or less on a daily basis. So the first one is logging water. In my video about the things that I track, I mentioned that one of the things that I would like to add to this tracking system is water. And this shortcut can be selected from the gallery of existing shortcuts, so you don't need to do anything. You can just select it and add it to your home screen, and that's it. So I decided to modify it a little bit. So if I click on it, I could also see how much water I have already consumed for the day, and I can select the amount that I want to log. The next 3 shortcuts are related to Notion. So the first one only opens a particular Notion page, which I called my control center. I created a page for my private projects. It's very efficient when it comes to work, so I thought, why not I do similar things for my private projects. If you want to know more about my organization system for work, I also made a video about that, and I would link it in somewhere on the screen and in the description below. The next shortcut is adding the articles to a certain Notion database. What it does is, if I go to the browser and I open a certain article, what I do is I copy the URL, I go back to the home screen and I open the shortcut, and as you can see, the URL is automatically copied. I press done, and that's it. This article is saved in a special page in Notion, so I can go to the articles to read and check it. So you could see this was the URL that I copied. And the last shortcut, which I spent lots and lots of time creating, in this part I'm only going to explain to you what is it that I wanted to do. So in one of my videos I was explaining the things that I track. These are my walking, reading, German, and workouts. It's both fitness and stretching. I have the whole table in Notion where I manually added the day of the week and the date for each month. And I thought, come on, this is so tedious. And wouldn't that be nice if my computer or my phone could automatically add all of these details for me? For this automation, what I wanted to do is to have a list of these activities that I want to track and select the ones that I have done for the day, press OK, and then it automatically adds to that table. So this is how it works. I click it, I have the options. I select something that I have done for today. Let's say it was reading in German. I click OK. I go to my activity tracker page in Notion, and you can see this is the new added row with today's date and the steps that I walked already, and you see that reading and German are checked. I also would like to show you the Shortcuts app if you haven't used it before. I just use the search function, so I just search for shortcuts. And there it is. If I open it, you could see my shortcuts that I added, some other shortcuts, the suggested ones. Then there is an automation tab. Automations are the things that happen, surprise, surprise, automatically. So they get triggered because of some event. So to make it more specific, these are 3 automations that I created for myself. All of them actually somehow relate to battery life. So when battery falls below 30%, I automatically trigger the save battery mode. And 2 other things are related to charging the phone. So it triggers when I plug the charger into the phone. And when that happens, the phone goes automatically into the battery save mode and the flight mode. Like that, the battery charges faster. And when I unplug the charger, the battery save mode is off and the airplane mode is also off. You can also Google for the automations that you could do in a very easy way. You could have automations related to your morning routine. You can have automations related to the location. There's lots of things that you could do with a smart home if you have something like that. So I think it's quite a fun thing to explore. A lot of these things do not require lots of technical knowledge. You can just assemble it like blocks. And the third tab here is the gallery of shortcuts. So this is something that is already pre-made for you, and you can select it and just add to your home screen and use as is. So you can browse through the available shortcuts and see what could be interesting for you. Like that, I actually found this shortcut to log water. This is it for my productivity setup and how I organize and automate things on my phone. Thank you very much for watching. If you found it useful, please hit the like and subscribe button. Don't forget about that. It helps me to grow this channel. And I will see you next week. Cheers!